All right, we have a lot to get through today. Of course, Weekend Warriors, Sunday Scaries coming your way, but let's get into the Roto World player news as we always do. For all of your player news, go to NBCSports.com, and let's start with the one that had, the most hype going into the weekend, guys. The Bills against the Dolphins, but the Bills in Buffalo sucked all of the hype away from Miami real quickly, Barry.
The Bills are good. Hashtag, analysis, but the Bills are really good. Again, you guys are going to call me a homer for this comment, but the Bills destroyed the Commanders last week, and I think
is that the take?
No, but in all seriousness, I think the Commanders went on the road and proved at Philadelphia the Commanders are a better team than I think they get credit for. Jay Croucher, even somebody as esteemed as you admitted.
I've never seen Jay laugh this hard in my life.
Jay,
the Bills beating the Dolphins is proof that the Commanders are good. Okay, interesting take. The first take as well from that came from you. Number one.
You misunderstood me. You misunderstood me. I mean, I think that is one of the takeaways. But no, I'm saying that my point is that it is a proof that my point is that we think the Commanders are a better team than you give them credit for. And when you start with that premise, the Bills destroyed them a week ago, and now here comes the hottest team in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, who just put up 70 in an actual NFL game in 2023, and the Bills handle them pretty easily as well. So that's all I'm saying is that I think we should have thought this Bills team was better than we initially did as well. I think, a lot of people had this game as a pick-em. A lot of people thought Miami would come in and win this game. They didn't come close, and I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs doing what superstar fantasy players do. Worth noting, though, Gabe Davis, second straight game with a touchdown, which is nice to see. As that offense starts clicking, Gabe Davis is when he scores, he's good. When he doesn't, not so much. So, again, he is a red zone threat. He had, a lot of scoring 2 years ago in limited time. Last year, not so much. Fully healthy. They're going to be scoring a lot. Gabe Davis will be a part of it. Last thing to note from this game very quickly on the Bills side, seemed to be more participation from Dalton Kincaid, which is interesting and encouraging as well. So we appreciate that. And our long national nightmare is over. James Cook got into the end zone.
Yeah, he did. Just lastly on the Bills as well, Josh Allen, now the MVP favorite. That flipped in quite a hurry. Tua was the favorite. Now he is not. And the Bills are still plus 800 to win the Super Bowl. They're the fourth favorite. Kansas City's plus 550. I think the Bills are just better than Kansas City right now, given how the Kansas City offense hasn't been all world. The Bills have a better defense. Trey White tearing his Achilles is terrible news, and that will hurt them going forward. But I still think they are the best and most complete team in the AFC. Maybe not in football. The Niners might have something to say about that. But Connor, on the other side of the ball, Mostert, Achane, that was the big discussion point coming in. I thought Achane would have a bad day yesterday, and people annihilated me on Twitter as a result. Now, to be fair, in my defense, what I thought was that he might not get a lot of work. He had 8 carries.
Right.
It's just apparently he's the greatest running back of all time with limited work and gets the 2 touchdowns. And I think, Connor, the main thing is that his snap percentage is going up, and it seems like he is the guy now over Mostert.
Right, and we could see Jeff Wilson back soon, which will make this even more complicated than it already is. And I think for Achane, you look at the opportunity or being opportunistic down inside the 20 and the big run ability. And not that Mostert doesn't have that, right? I think with Mostert, what you're concerned about in this game is the 2 fumbles, of course, as well.
Exactly.
That's where, in a backfield where everybody could kind of eat in this when Jeff Wilson is back, you can't cough up the ball in these mistake-free games. You need to be mistake-free against the Buffalo Bills to win. And Achane, he's just the most explosive rookie in that most explosive runner in that backfield. And obviously, they're only going to ramp up his workload, like you hinted at, Jay.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, a couple of things. First off, I'm just excited people found you on Twitter, Jay, to yell at you. So to me, you're mad at the people who are yelling at you on Twitter. I'm excited people realize you have a Twitter, and they actually found you at CroucherJD.
Yeah, start pissing people off more.
Yeah.
It's a good strategy.
Please give him a follow.
Yep.
I think you can be his 4th follower. And if you follow right now.
Less tweets about the Magpies, more about Devin Achane being no good.
Exactly. He promises less Magpie tweets. And it's only his Instagram that's about his kids. All right, so, but yeah, I think Connor, you bring up the exact right point. I think their touches were fairly even in the first half, and then he had the 2 fumbles are what kills you. One happened, I think, in the first half. One was in the second half, and then they just kind of went to Achane. And so, I'm still starting Raheem Mostert next week. I'm still not worried about this. I will say, however, that you feel really good if you use a late round pick on Devon Achane. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Connor's the only undefeated team in our league, in our show league, because he's got Achane. I have Mostert. I'm annoyed. I was bitter at him, very angry at him.
Well, I mean, these things
stealing
flip.
Achane from me.
Even yesterday, you would have preferred to have Mostert the rest of the season,
That's
and now
correct.
it's flipped, and now
I
it's
think so,
Achane, and now who knows? It could flip again.
Wait till Jeff Wilson enters the fray.
Well, right, and I don't think, by the way, I don't think Jeff Wilson Jr. is I wouldn't mind stashing him.
Yeah.
Because you never know, right? Especially, by the way, Achane was banged up a little bit in the preseason. Mostert's obviously dealt with health injuries throughout his career. So, yes, this week I will have Achane ranked ahead of Mostert, but I will have both still as top 20 plays against the Giants in a home game against the Giants that'll be traveling on a short week.
Yep, Giants and then home to Carolina next 2 weeks for the Dolphins. So they will get right, and there'll be lots of yards and touchdowns to go around.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the Broncos-Bears game, a get-well game for Justin Fields, as much as the ending was very disappointing.
Can we talk about this for 1 second? So in our show league, in our show league, I have a very good team. Coming into the week, I was 3-0. I had the number one team in the league. You were second.
But you were high
3-0.
scorer.
I was high scorer. I had the most points. And I was playing our producer, Steven D'Agostino, who's a diehard Jaguars fan. And so, his quarterback is Justin Fields. And so the one week that I have to play, the 1 week that Justin Fields is any good at all is the week, of course, that he's playing against me for Steven. And so what does he do? He goes off because of course he does. Of course he does, Jay. And
Matthew, last week you had Raheem Mostert against me.
Yes.
Yesterday he went 7 rushes for 9
fantasy
yards. He had 46
but Mostert
points.
did nothing yesterday. Mostert did nothing yesterday.
That's how it breaks, my friend.
What's
The game is the game.
Yeah,
Sometimes players have good games, sometimes they have bad games.
Don't
Matthew.
explain fantasy football to me. Don't explain it rationally to me. Absolutely not. I
Your players always play well.
Right, exactly. Yeah. They should play well for me and poorly against me. Exactly. So I'm super annoyed. I had the 4th highest score in the league, I believe, and yet I still lost. I suffered my first loss to Steven at the hands of Justin Fields, and really, if we think about it, at the hands of Sean Payton. Because, here's a question. What's more embarrassing for the Broncos defense? Giving up 70 to the Dolphins or giving up 28 to the Bears or whatever it is they gave up, right? I believe they gave up 28.
Yeah, down 28-7.
Yeah, they made a huge comeback.
Honestly, they gave up almost 30 points to the Bears. I legit think that's a question. What's more embarrassing?
Yeah. Potentially the Bears, and it was the most irrelevant 28-7 comeback of all time. I don't think anyone feels good about the Broncos. I find it funny that Marvin Mims, he had a long catch reception of 48 yards and finished with 47 yards receiving on the day, which kind of sums up the Marvin Mims experience
That
this
really
year.
is. You're seeing Fields here. Big day for Fields. Basically, we're at the point where the recipe for having a good fantasy day on offense, if you're struggling, is to play the Broncos. Just being honest.
Yeah, by the way, I wouldn't mind. I will say, I think, hopefully, it was a bad, but it felt like he turned the corner a little bit, and maybe this is the game. Remember, he started slow last year as well. Their upcoming schedule, so they're at Washington on Thursday Night Football, so that's a short week. Don't love them against my mighty Commanders. But then home to the Vikings, home to Las Vegas, at the Chargers, 3 good matchups in a row coming up after the Thursday night game. So, I think he might struggle on Thursday night, and we'll talk about the rest of the players, but it was nice to see DJ Moore go off in this one, and so as Justin Fields goes, so does DJ Moore. So anyway, positive signs for Fields coming out of this game. The other thing is that my Twitter feed may or may not have been filled with rage tweets. I just don't read my Twitter feed. This is the other mistake you and I make.
Yeah.
The difference between us in terms of Twitter, because one of my shot for shots on yesterday's fantasy football pregame is I believe I said it on this show as well, Roschon Johnson's going to overtake the backfield from Khalil Herbert. That did not happen.
Well,
big day for Khalil Herbert. 18 carries for over 100 yards, 4 catches for 19 yards. Roschon only 5 carries for 13 yards. I was with you all the way on this one, Barry, and all the noise from the insiders was that Roschon Johnson was getting a lot of momentum in this backfield, Jay, but Khalil Herbert kind of wins back control.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that it's too early in the season for the Bears to just give up and start playing their young guys. And look, Khalil Herbert's good. Whenever he takes the field, he's good. He's been effective. He was more efficient and more explosive than David Montgomery last year. And look, he is still a viable option. I don't think seems like they're not ready to just transition. I think the good thing for all these guys, for Moore, for Fields, for Herbert, for Roschon later, it seems that at least they have the potential to put up 4-score games, which it was looking like they may not have.
79% of snaps, 58% of the team carries, both of those season highs for Khalil Herbert. So we will see what they do. I certainly don't love any of them on the road at Washington. Yes. My 2-2 should be 3-1 Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Last thing for me from this game here is Russell Wilson. Look, it wasn't always pretty, but he finishes with over 22 fantasy points as we head into Monday Night Football. He's a top 10 fantasy quarterback. He now has 6 games since Nathaniel Hackett was fired. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game, 20.7 in those 6 games, including 20-plus points in 4 of those games. He now has 2 different games with 3 or more passing touchdowns this season. Like, he only had 2 last year. The whole thing last year about will he have more touchdown passes or bathrooms in his house, right? You know,
it's a fair question.
Finally, I think bypassed it in the very last week of the season. So Wilson. Now, listen, the schedule does not get easier, right? They're home to the Jets this week. Then they're at Kansas City on a short week. That's a Thursday night game there. Home to Green Bay, and then home to Kansas City again.
Yeah.
So it's
Kansas City twice, 3 weeks.
Kansas City twice in the next 4 weeks. Yeah, and then, by the way, they get the Jets. It's the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game.
That's right. Oh, yeah. So this one's personal.
This one is personal. But anyway, I just think the 2 takeaways are here is that I do think Russell Wilson's usable as a fantasy quarterback. And number 2 is that he has been consistent enough that you feel good about the Jerry Jeudy and the Cortland Suttons of the world. And you know, it seems like, and if they can ever get some more participation from Marvin Mims, then you think second half of the year, I think Marvin Mims is going to become a thing.
Yeah. Randomly, 10 different Broncos caught passes yesterday, and no one had more than 3 receptions, which was weird. I don't think that's going to be as egalitarian of an offense going forward. And last thing on this one is that Javonte Williams, he got hurt. Jaleel McLaughlin came in. Connor, what's this guy's story?
Speed, and he can catch the ball. And you see the targets, but you see the 72 yards on 7 carries. He's a smaller scat back that has a ton of speed from a small school. He could fly. He can catch the ball. Peyton loves him. And I think another thing, we'll talk a lot about McLaughlin on waivers because he's going to be a hot name for waiver wired on Tuesday. But I think they wanted to get him on the field anyway when Javonte Williams was healthy. And now that he's not, Peyton has his guys, right? He drafted Mims early. They found this kid as a UDFA, and he just looks really, really good at the second level of the field, making guys miss.
He had a strong training camp, and they weirdly used him in the red zone a lot this year. You know, he scored the touchdown here. Like, I think there was another game this year where he had like 1 carry for 3 yards, but it scored a touchdown.
Right.
His 1 carry was from the 3 or something like that. So they seem to like that speed on the edge, especially when they get in close as well. So he'll be a popular name tomorrow as well. After the injury, it's worth noting, Samaje Perine did play 57% of the snaps. McLaughlin played 37% of the snaps. Again, to your point, we'll get in more into what we think the split will be tomorrow. But yeah, it's a tough break for Javonte Williams. We'll hopefully have more update, and he'll be back soon. But we'll know more tomorrow.
Our next game was an absolute thriller, the Rams at the Colts. And before we jump into this one, guys, we got to listen in on how it ended.
Stafford ready, calls for the snap. Here comes the rush. He throws right side alone. It's Puka at the 5 to the end zone. A walk-off winner. Nacua Matata. It means no worries.
How validated do you feel right
now? Oh, boy.
Very validated. Jay Croucher told me I should not use that phrase. It's all Jay Croucher's fault. I feel like I should copyright that. I should have copyrighted that.
You blew it now.
I blew it. I'm screwed. Now it's going to be on T-shirts and everything like that, and that guy's going to make a fortune.
Steven told me that we had sound for this game.
Yeah.
And he told me what the sound was, and I did not believe him. I knew we had the sound and we had to play it, but I was like, let's see what he actually says. It's a radio call for everybody that was not the actual TV broadcast call. Great radio call.
That was Westwood One.
Great radio call.
Yeah.
And it actually was the no worries call. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
My genius knows no bounds.
Yep. No, apparently it knows no bounds. The Offensive Player of the Year vote, if it were held today.
Not rookie.
Yeah, no, Offensive Player of the Year vote. If it were held today, Christian McCaffrey would win. Justin Jefferson and Tirico would be second and third, and Puka Nacua would be fourth. He would be fourth. He's been the fourth best offensive. He's got 501 yards. He's leading the league in receptions. He's just been out of his mind, and it's not. I mean, look, Cooper Kupp coming back is going to complicate a lot of things, and I'm not sure what Nakua's role will be, but clearly he's too good to just be marginalized. He's going to continue to eat, and it was, I think, poetic that after he hadn't gotten in the end zone, and he was so close to getting in the end zone against the Bengals in particular, he finally does it in a walk-off win on the road. I mean, he's one of the stories of the season.
There's no question about it. There's two wide receivers that have 500 receiving yards this year, Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua. There's two wide receivers that have 50 or more targets this year, Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. He's got a 32.5% target share this year. He's had at least 100 receiving yards in 3 out of 4 games this year. He truly means no worries to fantasy managers and Sean McVay.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like...
He's on pace for over 2,100 receiving yards. I believe the record is 1964 by Calvin Johnson. So I don't think he's going to break it, but I mean, he's out of his mind, and it seems sustainable, just the type of player that he is. Yeah. He's not relying on these big Marvin Mims type of bombs. He is just eating in the soft parts of the coverage. And look, I'm very interested to see, how do you think Cooper Kupp coming back will affect him?
I think the target share is the biggest thing. Yeah. That's, I mean, to state the obvious, it's the target share. Where is Nacua going to be going for over 100 yards every single week? No, but is he effective PPR player? Absolutely. But in terms of the award chase, I do wonder if that kind of separates the gap. But C.J. Stroud ends up, top of the Rookie of the Year, things like that.
I think Stroud is the leader in that market, and they still have Bijan second. It's tough to win that award if you're going to be a wide receiver 2 on what looks like a 500-ish team. But Nakua's been incredible, and look, I think Cooper Kupp's not going to be full go Cooper Kupp from the get-go. I think Nacua is still going to get a ton of targets. It's just instead of being 9 for 163, he might be, a 6 for 75 guy.
I wish there was a way you could bet, like, hey, this guy's going to finish top 4 in like a bunch of categories.
Yes.
He's not going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But he's going to be like, there's going to be a lot of like,
he's going to be on the ballot.
He's going to be on a lot of ballots and get a lot of votes. And so, anyway, I agree with you. One of the best stories of the year. And until further notice, again, let's see what happens with Cooper Kupp. But like, and I'm also, by the way, I'm not selling high on him. Because that's the other question I keep getting is like, should I sell high on him before Cooper Kupp comes back? And I'm like, I don't think so, because I think the perception of what Cooper Kupp will do to his role is greater than the upside of potentially what Nacua could do the rest of the year. And so I don't think you're going to get that upside in a trade. I would rather just stay put, because, by the way, there's no guarantee that Kupp comes back this week or that he stays healthy all year, or that there isn't some sort of changing of the guard here a little bit, that they, that, again, Puka Nacua, part of the Breakfast Club. Part of the Breakfast Club with Matthew Stafford, so now it's the 3 of them. I'm just saying.
Look, and to your point on Kupp, there's a few ways that can go south-ish for Kupp in a way that helps Nacua, between not coming back as quickly as thought, potential re-injury, maybe just coming off the injury, they use him in a less kind of target-dominant role, and Nacua remains the guy. So I think that, he's going to be a top 20 wide receiver.
They roll more coverage towards Cooper Kupp. Right. Like, we're not worried about, Puka Nacua when Cooper Kupp's out there. Anyway, it is a great story, and I would not trade him, is I guess the one takeaway I would get there. Another guy I wouldn't trade Connor Rogers is Kyren Williams, who, like, just again, like we didn't expect. We thought the Rams would have a locked-in every snap, massive target share wide receiver. We just didn't think it was going to be Puka Nacua. Although I did say pick him up, and we have tape of me saying that in the preseason. Thank you very much.
We'll never show it though.
I got to circle the wagons of that. I will say this: I didn't have Kyren Williams. As much as I was saying, like, hey, I think Puka Nacua is going to be a thing, I didn't think this was going to happen. But I did talk about him in the preseason, saying I know they like him, and he's worth a late draft pick. Kyren Williams was nowhere on my radar, guys, and he should have been. He has been nothing short of spectacular. Cam Akers is there. Kyren Williams touches the ball on like every play.
I'm shocked at the volume with Kyren Williams. When you look at him coming out of Notre Dame, I mean, he was a guy that you project as a third down back, a smaller third down back, runs hard, always has run hard, does all the little things right, great pass protector, everything you'd love about a third down back. The Rams don't care. They will give him as much volume as any running back in the league at this point. And not only is he capitalizing in the end zone, but he's also getting some pass game work as well, Jay.
He is. And look, I think the main thing for all these guys is that it appears the Rams are here to stay. Like, this is going to be a wild card contending type of team. I don't think they're going to contend for the division over the Niners or anything, but Stafford is playing at such a level. The defense has been solid enough, and the offensive line is keeping Stafford upright enough that I think this is a team that, is going to be in the mix to the end of the season. Is going to be playing their guys, going to be scoring points.
And that's what's important because it keeps Kyren Williams as a locked-in RB1. Since week 2, 83% of the snaps, 83% of the team's running back carries have gone to Kyren Williams. That kind of volume is impossible to find. Let's move to the other side of the ball now, and Anthony Richardson. Welcome back,
Yes.
Rich. What a
return.
What a game for him. 25 for 103, the 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, 11 for 25 and the 200 yards and the 2 touchdowns. He also gets 10 carries, so his rushing carries prop the over cashes there. I like the under at 9.5. I was wrong. But he also gets into the end zone as well. He's played 2 full games this season. 25.3 fantasy points per game. 51% of his fantasy points this season have come from rushing, which is helpful. I think he was on my love list. I had him as a top 5 quarterback. And that appears to have been wrong because I should have said he's going to be a top 2 quarterback because that's what he is as we head into Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and fantasy-wise, monster, led them back as well, and the rushing is immense. But, Connor, what have you seen from him as a passer? Because he was 11 of 25. And look, fantasy-wise doesn't really matter because he's getting the stats anyway, but in terms of the concerning signs about him as a passer so far.
I think with Anthony Richardson, he's going to follow that Cam Newton trajectory of it might look around 50, 54%, and you don't care because he airs the ball out. He's hitting some big throws. There was one throw down the middle, drop between the defense, where maybe 6 guys in the league can make that. So I think he's a box score guy that you're like, you know what? He's going to make the big throws. He's going to miss at times. I don't think he has the greatest supporting cast through the air as well, Jay, that he can lean on a guy 14 times a game, 15 times a game. So I've been wildly impressed with Anthony Richardson. I've been even more impressed, maybe, or just as impressed with Shane Steichen. When you look at his departure from the Eagles and now what he's done with his quarterback for the Colts offense, where they know how to balance Anthony Richardson's running and downfield passing.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
It is really fun. It is really fun to watch. And, what's interesting is that I thought, hey, he's going to be the best fantasy quarterback. Like, he's the most ready. Like, for all the people that, the passing isn't there and everything like that. C.J. Stroud's making a case for himself. I mean, Stroud's been terrific, but Richardson's just been so much better. Again, with the rushing and the passing, you'll get there. But he's competent enough as a passer that they can't disrespect it.
Yep.
Our final game here, guys, in our first segment, your Commanders at the Eagles. A thriller. A thriller for the Commanders. Sam Howell coming off a tough week, and
Not his name.
He bounced back. Ring of Honor, Sam Howell.
Future Hall of Famer.
Future
Sam Howell.
Hall of Famer.
I feel
Sam
better
Howell.
about that statement today than I did a week ago.
Oh,
I'll say
yeah.
that.
How could you not? Well, the bar was a little low, but he did look great yesterday.
I mean, come on. Give the man some credit here. Like, he balled out. He played well as a quarterback. To me, there's not a big fantasy takeaway from the Eagles side. The Eagles did what they did, right? Another awesome game from A.J. Brown. DeAndre Swift has clearly established himself as the running back you want. He got into the end zone. That's helpful. Jalen Hurts did Jalen Hurts things. This was in bounds.
Yeah.
Come on. Look at this. Like, so upsetting. I actually think what happened is this guy's, we're seeing the McLaurin play for those that are just listening to the audio. I honestly, that looks in bounds to me. I think they screwed this one up.
Yeah.
Jay, am I wrong? Like,
No,
They didn't want to
I think that's
overturn
in
it.
bounds. I think that's
and
in
I
bounds.
agree. I think it was in bounds as well. They got it wrong on the initial call, and they often don't overturn it unless it's overwhelming evidence, and that's kind of what happened there.
Do you think it was karma for Ron, no longer Riverboat Rivera, not going for 2 at the end?
Safety run?
Safety run. No, I don't know. I mean, like,
You got to go for 2 there, man.
You think you
gotta
have
go
to?
for 2 there. When you're the weaker team, and they're not as
Yes,
good as the
correct.
Eagles, and you
I
go to
agree.
overtime, and you got a 50% chance to end it, coin flip, you got to go for that.
I didn't hate it just because I felt like they had some momentum there and they could go for it, and I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it because I also thought, by the way, it was so sort of fluky to get into the end zone there at the end that I sort of thought, like, let's put together a drive and listen, they should have. I mean, again, the McLaurin thing gets called right, like he looks like a genius.
Sick
by the
throw.
way, brilliant throw by Sam Howell. And by the way, on the other side of the ball, Like, Penn State Blake over there, who's a diehard Eagles fan, he's all smiles because he knows. There he is. Look at him. Look at him.
It's actually the happiest we've seen.
He's all smiley because he knows they got away with one because on that fourth down that was a false start. Like, the guy, like, I think it was the right guard that that moved. Like he was in the secondary by the time they actually snapped the ball. Seriously, go back and watch that play. Penn State Blake, you agree, right? You guys did get away with one there.
4-0.
He just says 4-0.
Blake's very defensive about me criticizing his Eagles for not having done much yet. Well, I guess they beat the Patriots, Vikings, Bucks, and Commanders. So Super Bowl next. Looking forward, Blake, to them playing Dallas at KC, Buffalo, and San Francisco in succession. End of November, start of December.
If there's one other takeaway fantasy-wise, I don't think there's anything from the Eagles, but honestly, from the Commanders' side here, it was nice to see John Dotson get in the end zone. But I feel like Brian Robinson is sort of matchup-proof at this point, like just as a locked-in RB2. He just runs so hard. And Terry McLaurin, 25.6% target share in Week 4. That's the highest in a game this season. Most targets, receptions, and receiving yards in a game. Like, he looked like, oh, yeah, that's Terry McLaurin. And again, if they call that play correctly in overtime, it's an even better day as well. But, 8 for 86 in this one, 22.6 fantasy points. He's a top 10 wide receiver heading into Monday Night Football. It was just nice to see Terry McLaurin doing Terry McLaurin things. I think he's back to being that top 20-ish wide receiver he was drafted to be.
Yep, definitely, and had the big play taken away from him. I think the other takeaway, though, is that Sam Howell's got to stop taking sacks, because if he keeps taking 6 sacks a game,
brutal.
he is not going to make it through the season.
That I agree
He is
with.
on pace to exceed the sacks record by like 30%. That cannot continue. He needs to. I mean, it's admirable in a way because he's clearly tough and he's taking these hits and he's standing in the pocket. He's got to get rid of the ball more. He cannot keep taking this.
Like the offensive line's been brutal, but some of it's also on Howell. I agree with you.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotorWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.